Of course, we're proud and honored to have received the invitation to become one of the founding members of the board. And it was an honor for me personally to be sitting this morning and witnessing the signing and having His Highness Sheikh bin Salman Al Khalifa, who is the Minister of the Prime Minister's Court, signing on behalf of His Majesty the King, and being actually the first to sign as a member, as a founding member of the board. This comes as the next step in Bahrain's support for the peace plan. And really it's in line with what you see in the region. The region is hungry for peace. The region, clearly through the economic development plans that you hear, the strategies, the visions, the region wants to focus on economic development, which ultimately will benefit its citizens and the people that live in the region. And so supporting any plan that could get us there is something that's definitely in line with Bahrain's strategies and plans. I think if you allow me, I'll just say that I don't think there should be a question or a doubt around is this taking this place. The question is, do we have another better option? And that's what I've been hearing over the last couple of days, is unless someone has a better option than the one on the table at the moment, which has quite wide consensus from the region, I believe we should go ahead with that and give it a chance, let it succeed. And then what you can see is people want, the momentum is really good. There is already plans for the next step in that board and what we'll do, bringing in the private sector and the government. And once we see that action, probably more people will come on board. But I think giving a peace a chance is what the region needs. I think it's worth clarifying here that no $1 billion is paid. The $1 billion is for a permanent seat. And our seat is what was offered, the 3-year seat. So if you're asking in general, I'll leave it to the countries to make that decision. Every country would have its own perspective, its own calculations, its own math. And for some countries, the math might be making sense and mathing. For others, so it's up to the countries, I think, to decide. I think I just want to maybe go to a point that we made earlier, speaking of the region and the investment, the heavy investment that is happening, whether it's the wider technology center or specifically AI. I think it's worth mentioning here that the region has been going through this growth spurt, which we hope would last. That capital is starting to flow into the country. So it's no longer just the deep pockets of the region that is fueling the economic development. It is the trust of the larger companies, global companies, whether it's the East or the West, that is now taking advantage of what is happening in the region. And if I just zoom in on the GCC, I mean, it gives us a lot of pride to see what is happening in Saudi Arabia and the UAE in terms of them being leaders in that space. We always, as a smaller economy in the region, we view ourselves as an economy that is complementary to what happens around us, whether it is the GCC or the wider MENA region, or even globally, as an economy that is a service center, as an economy that is there to complement what is happening. We always look to see what is happening. And now on AI, it's not just a competition about who builds the most data centers or who has the LLM or who doesn't. There is much more applications for AI. There's much more need for AI beyond just the data centers. But just on that data centers, I mean, we look at a few things in Bahrain when we come to look at where we need to be and how do we design this sector or subsector. One is the human capital, for sure. This is the foundation of a small economy that does not have a lot of natural resources. It is our human capital. And like a lot of the other countries, we've dedicated a lot into investing in the people, making sure that we have the right programs in place. Although the transformation hasn't yet happened in terms of people not finding jobs because AI has replaced those jobs. We hear the numbers in the US. I think the latest number I heard is entry-level jobs have decreased by 17–18%. I don't think this is something we're seeing right now in the region, but nevertheless, we do have programs to equip the people to make sure that they're ready and that they have this portfolio of skills to enable them to move from one job to another or to upskill. So we have our Labour Fund Tamkeen, which funds or subsidizes the salaries and the training for any company that is set up in Bahrain and that's hiring Bahrainis. They can take advantage. The other thing is the infrastructure. And part of that infrastructure today is not just the roads and that, but there is the data centers. And we're proud to be the first country in the region to have the first hyperscale data center. And that's when AWS set up in Bahrain 10 years ago. And it was set up not to serve 1.5 million population. It was done for the wider region, going beyond even the region. We're talking about going to Africa and hosting data. And the other thing that allows that is the regulation. And we're, I believe, still the only country in the world that has a data jurisdiction law or a data citizenship law, which allows international countries and companies to host data in Bahrain. So that's in terms of what we've done so far. But where we're focused is we believe that needs to be, or we need a space for AI applications, a country that could be a test bed. It could have a sandbox for startups to come and test their idea in a smaller country where you can have a nationwide rollout of your idea, and then you could scale it up to other countries. So there's a lot of investment that is happening beyond just the data centers and the LLMs.
It's a great point.
If I may just jump in here, because I just want to emphasize on that point. We've been doing AI without realizing that it is AI. And as Mr. Hisham has been saying, in Bahrain, actually, we've been having KYC. We have digital onboarding, and that is something that is available for all the banks. All the banks are offering it to their customers. So there's already a lot of innovation that is happening that is homegrown in the region. So it's not going to be a switch of a button where the world transforms from what it is today into something completely different. We've been going on that transformation, and every country has been going through its own journey, depending exactly on, your original question about the diversification. Because the financial services is the largest sector in our economy, there's a lot of innovation that is happening in that sector. Then you've got the manufacturing as well, which is having its own journey. The telecoms are innovating at the moment. Our digital company, or telco, which has now become really a tech company, has its own cybersecurity startup, which is now being rolled out globally. And we've got international customers taking advantage of homegrown cybersecurity services.
I have to echo her talk, because and one of my friends used to be the governor of the central bank, Rashid Al-Ma'raj.
Of course,
and I meet Rashid every year at the North Coast, and we talk about what they are doing there and so on. And the sandbox he created at the central bank for all the fintechs and the development there was very impressive to me. I wish we did the same thing at the time, but Rashid did an outstanding job there. And honestly, the sky's the limit, okay?
I have to fully agree with the education point, but also I just want to talk in general. For a small economy, the government could not be the one driving economic prosperity on its own. And that's something that we've realized, and it's fundamental to the Vision 2030 that we issued back in 2008. It said economic development going forward would be driven by the private sector. What the government will do is create the right environment for the private sector to innovate, to create businesses, to grow their businesses. And that is through education, through making the systems easier, making the business environment, making the government processes really easy for companies, and creating institutions like Economic Development Board, which is created just to handhold the private sector, whether it's local or international, to navigate its way within Bahrain and understand the systems and find the best case for them to be present. So for me, it's the government and the private sector have to work together in absolutely everything. So whether it's the regulation, it has to work for both, whether it's the infrastructure, whether it is the human capital and the education, it has to be both working together.